the presiding judge delivered a blow that sent shockwaves through the courtroom, and Diddy's expressions said it all. The latest ruling denied a key motion to suppress evidence obtained during the infamous Homeland Security raids, effectively greenlighting some of the most incriminating material prosecutors claim to have gathered. According to courtroom observers, Diddy barely flinched but gripped the table with a visible intensity, as if willing the moment to pass. Despite growing pressure, Diddy has refused to consider any form of plea deal. His legal team remains adamant that their client is innocent, calling the case a media-fueled ambush. With the trial date looming, the judge also confirmed a pretrial hearing where additional sealed evidence may be revealed, possibly including communications between Diddy and his inner circle that the prosecution alleges could point toward a much deeper operation. Rumors are now swirling that the prosecution is preparing to call a surprise witness tied directly to Diddy's business ventures, someone who could upend the case entirely. Diddy's legal strategy isn't just about denying guilt. It's a full-blown offensive, grounded in the idea that this case is less about evidence and more about taking down a cultural icon. His lawyers have boldly suggested that the charges themselves are politically and racially motivated, with whispers of a broader pattern: Black moguls being scrutinized and dismantled once they reach a certain level of wealth and power. While the prosecution paints Diddy as a man with too many secrets and too much cash stashed in shadowy offshore accounts, his defense is painting him as the target of an orchestrated smear campaign. They're reportedly preparing to introduce expert testimony, claiming that the lavish lifestyle being used against him is common in the entertainment industry. Internally, his team is scrambling to plug leaks as speculation mounts that former associates have flipped under pressure. The stakes are sky high, and with social media dissecting every courtroom detail, Diddy's legal battle is becoming a battleground for a much larger cultural war. Possibly the most shocking development yet is the revelation that Christian Combs, Diddy's own son, has allegedly been cooperating with federal investigators. Leaked court documents suggest Christian's testimony could be pivotal. He reportedly had deep knowledge of Diddy's private affairs, including exclusive guest lists, high-value payments, and logistical arrangements for now scrutinized events. What's most unsettling is the idea that Christian might not just be a passive witness. Prosecutors claim he was actively involved, whether knowingly or not, in maintaining the infrastructure behind these glamorous but now controversial gatherings. Some insiders have suggested that Christian's cooperation came only after mounting legal pressure, with investigators allegedly threatening to implicate him directly if he remained silent. The leaks have triggered a firestorm online, with fans torn between sympathy and suspicion. Did Christian betray his father, or was he simply trying to protect himself from being dragged into something far darker? The dramatic midnight raids on Diddy's properties in Los Angeles and Miami weren't just for show. They were tactical strikes aimed at disrupting and dismantling whatever operation prosecutors believe was being hidden in plain sight. Armed agents stormed both homes simultaneously, seizing phones, laptops, hard drives, and financial records. Eyewitnesses reported seeing safes being wheeled out, while unmarked boxes were loaded into blacked-out vehicles. Among the seized devices were several containing encrypted communications that reportedly reveal personal exchanges between Diddy and Christian, messages prosecutors claim are central to the case. One leak suggested a recovered phone log included coded phrases and references to high-profile guests, travel routes, and VIP services. Language prosecutors argue points to more than just party planning. Rumors are also flying that the raids were intentionally timed to catch family members off guard, pressuring them into cooperation by sheer shock and confusion. Whether this aggressive strategy will hold up in court remains to be seen. For years, Diddy's ultra-exclusive parties have been legendary. Celebrity-packed nights shrouded in secrecy, glamour, and whispered rumors. But now, prosecutors are pulling back the curtain, suggesting these soirees weren't just Hollywood decadence, but potential fronts for something much more sinister. Reports claim that investigators have collected testimony from former staffers, detailing controlled access, cash-only entry systems, and lists of preferred guests that raise red flags. Christian's alleged involvement has come under intense scrutiny. Leaked memos suggest he was responsible for approving invites, arranging luxury transportation, and coordinating private suites. Some sources argue this made him a willing participant, while others say he may have been used as a pawn, unaware of the full picture. The entertainment industry is watching nervously, as several big names are rumored to have been regulars at these gatherings. Could this be the scandal that topples multiple careers? Or are prosecutors spinning ordinary excess into something criminal? As Christian's name continues to surface, Diddy's legal team is hitting back with a dramatic counter-narrative. They claim Christian was coerced. According to sources close to the defense, federal agents allegedly used the threat of personal charges and public exposure to push Christian into flipping on his father. Some unverified reports even suggest investigators timed the raids to emotionally destabilize the family, creating an environment where Christian felt he had no choice but to cooperate. Public reaction has been explosive. Some see Christian's actions as betrayal, while others view it as a tragic example of a young man caught between loyalty and survival. The media has latched onto this storyline, and online debates rage over whether the government crossed ethical lines in their pursuit of evidence. Did they weaponize family ties to break down Diddy's defense? Or is this just a diversion tactic from a man facing overwhelming allegations? The truth, as always, remains buried beneath layers of power and pressure. Christian might not be the only one under fire. Reports now suggest that federal prosecutors have quietly approached Diddy's other sons, Justin Combs and Quincy Brown, with unofficial offers to cooperate. Rumors of secret meetings at undisclosed locations have sparked speculation that authorities are trying to isolate Diddy by turning his entire family against him. Sources close to the situation claim that at least one family member has already handed over financial records and communications tied to business expenses that prosecutors believe were fronts for unlicensed dealings. The tension within the Combs family is said to be at a breaking point, with trust eroding and paranoia spreading. What was once seen as a tight-knit dynasty now appears fractured, possibly beyond repair. If the feds succeed in flipping more family members, Diddy could face not just legal devastation, but personal implosion. And in a media landscape hungry for spectacle, a family civil war could be the courtroom drama that dominates headlines for months. 50 Cent has never been one to stay quiet during a celebrity scandal, but this time, the trial's opening day felt less like a legal proceeding and more like a cultural moment. With cameras flashing and protesters gathered outside, the courtroom was thick with emotion and tension. Prosecutors came out swinging, presenting digital evidence they say proves Diddy coordinated a complex web of illegal transactions using encrypted messages, private jet manifests, and hard-to-trace shell companies. The defense pushed back hard, calling the case a witch hunt driven by sensationalism, not facts. They claimed the family drama was being exploited to manipulate the jury and poison public opinion. Some courtroom insiders noted how visibly shaken Diddy looked when Christian's name was mentioned, especially as the prosecution hinted he could be called to testify at any time. This isn't just a trial about money or reputation anymore. It's a high-stakes psychological battle, with every testimony and document threatening to peel back another layer of a very public unraveling. The courtroom is bracing for a moment that could either solidify or shatter everything: Christian Combs' potential testimony. If Christian takes the stand, the entire trial could pivot dramatically. The weight of his decision is felt not just by him, but by everyone watching, as it represents the ultimate betrayal, or the final act of defiance. The legal ramifications are enormous. If Christian testifies against his father, it could be seen as an irrefutable signal of guilt. However, the emotional toll is far more complex. For Christian, who grew up in the shadow of a global mogul, stepping into that courtroom could be both a painful personal reckoning and a tactical move for self-preservation. What will he say? The speculation is rampant. Could he implicate Diddy in a larger criminal operation, or will he stand by his father, risking his own future in the process? Many are questioning whether this is a case of a son being forced to turn on his father by the pressure of a system that demands cooperation, or if this is a calculated move on Christian's part to save himself from deeper legal entanglement. The emotional stakes of his testimony are high, not just legally, but personally. Everyone is wondering, will he testify, and if so, how will it shape the fate of the Combs dynasty? One of the most stunning revelations of the case came when prosecutors unveiled a hidden treasure trove of financial documents, exposing a web of $74 million in assets that Diddy allegedly concealed across multiple offshore accounts. What's even more shocking is that this money was funneled through a network of 17 shell companies, many of which had suspiciously vague purposes. But it gets even more jaw-dropping. Among the names tied to these accounts and transactions is none other than Christian Combs. His name appeared on receipts for yacht rentals, catering invoices, and private jet bookings, leading to speculation that he may have played a much larger role in the operations than previously known. These financial maneuvers are now at the heart of the prosecution's case, with investigators suggesting that the money trail is a clear sign of illicit activity. The defense, however, argues that this is just standard practice for someone managing a sprawling entertainment empire and insists that these expenses are no different from the lavish spending of other industry moguls. But the truth is, this money trail raises a series of uncomfortable questions that will continue to haunt Diddy and possibly Christian as the trial unfolds. The line between legitimate business practices and criminal activity is getting blurrier by the day, especially in the case of Diddy. His lawyers have defended the extravagant spending habits, including yachts, private jets, and upscale parties, as part of the normal expenses tied to his music career and business empire. They argue that high-profile figures in entertainment routinely pay for luxury experiences to enhance their image and attract industry connections. However, prosecutors are painting a much darker picture. They claim that these lavish expenses were not simply part of the lifestyle of a successful music mogul, but were instead part of a carefully constructed criminal enterprise. The case hinges on whether Diddy's over-the-top lifestyle was just that, over-the-top, or whether it masked a much deeper illegal operation. With every new revelation, it's becoming harder to ignore the nagging question: at what point does the extravagant become the unlawful? This blurred line between business and crime has sparked fierce debates, not just in the courtroom, but across media platforms. Was Diddy operating a legitimate business, or was he running a criminal network disguised as a global brand? Diddy, once known as the undisputed king of hip-hop, is now facing the possibility of losing everything: his reputation, his empire, and his status as a cultural icon. Public opinion has turned against him in a way that no one could have predicted. His once immaculate brand is now being associated with scandal, crime, and deceit. Major sponsors, once eager to work with him, are reportedly reconsidering their partnerships, with some pulling out altogether. Rumors of internal divisions within his business empire are surfacing as longtime collaborators distance themselves from the growing storm. The media has jumped on the story, painting Diddy as a symbol of collapse, someone who built his empire on flashy parties and extravagant stunts, only for it all to come crashing down in a legal battle of epic proportions. Fans are torn. Some still see him as a misunderstood genius, a victim of the system, while others are grappling with the notion that perhaps the man they once admired was never who he appeared to be. Either way, Diddy's legacy as a mogul, tastemaker, and trailblazer is now in jeopardy. The public is watching closely, waiting for the next dramatic development that could seal his fate. Can Diddy recover from this, or is this the beginning of the end of an era? As the trial inches closer to its climax, the central question remains: is Diddy being unfairly targeted, or does the evidence speak for itself? The prosecution is claiming they have built an airtight case, and the mounting evidence seems to back that up. Yet Diddy and his legal team continue to insist that he is the victim of a larger conspiracy, one designed to take him down as a symbol of black success. The question of whether this is a case of racial bias or a legitimate criminal investigation has divided public opinion. What's certain is that the stakes are higher than ever, both legally and personally. If Diddy loses this battle, it could be the final blow to his career, reputation, and financial future. If he prevails, he might be able to reclaim some of his lost ground, but the scars of this battle will be impossible to erase. And then there's the potential bombshell that could come from Christian's testimony. If he chooses to take the stand, it could either absolve or further incriminate Diddy, depending on the direction his statements take. The court of public opinion is watching as closely as the courtroom itself, and with every passing day, more and more people are asking, is Diddy truly innocent, or has he been hiding behind a facade for far too long?